I'm going to explain in this video why I believe we will see the return of the Children of the Forest and why it's so important that we see them again in Game of Thrones Season 8. The Children of the Forest are very important to how we will understand the Song of Ice and Fire. And although we don't have a wealth of information on their history, I believe that we will learn more about them in the final season of A Game of Thrones. This video will mainly be focused on a few characters such as Bran Stark, Howland Reed, and Jon Snow. But before we get to the endgame, I want to first talk about their ideologies and their way of life. Yesterday I released a podcast with Secrets of the Citadel, and some of you may know her as Gemma. We went into depth discussing the old gods, and in our research, we both agreed that the religion that was most closely related to the Children of the Forest was animism. Animism encompasses the beliefs that all material phenomena, the spiritual and physical world, and that the soul or consciousness exists not only in humans, but in other animals, plants, mountains, rivers, and even trees. It is a much more personal relationship with their faith, where the only symbolic places of worship comparable to a shrine are weirwood trees. This is very different than the personal one-on-one relationship that a particular person shares with the smith or the mother from the Faith of the Seven, or like Melisandre in the case of R'hllor with the Lord of Light. They believe in innumerable and unnamed nature gods, the spirits of each tree, each rock, and each stream. It's important that we understand this and the point that Leaf made. She explained what happened between the first men and the children, and you could hear how much it affected her because she genuinely believed that the first men were killing beings with souls, the weirwoods. Of course, we know the consequences of what happened. The Children of the Forest made the Night King, and somewhere along the line, they lost control over the situation. But let's call this what it is. It's a holy war. This story has been told throughout human history many times and is very much likened to the story of Catholicism being pushed on the natives in the Americas. But how is something like this resolved? Either one side is completely wiped out, or the two sides come to an agreement, a pact. Let's take a deeper look into the Order of the Green Men and the Children of the Forest and some passages from the books. Maester Luwin. Finally, the wise of both races prevailed, and the chiefs and heroes of the first men met the green seers and wood dancers amidst the weirwood groves of a small island in the great lake called the God's Eye. There they forged the pact. The first men were given the coastlands, the high plains, and the bright meadows, the mountains and bogs, but the deep woods were to remain forever the children's, and no more weirwoods were to be put to an axe anywhere in the realm. So the gods might bear witness to the signing, every tree on the island was given a face, and afterwards the sacred order of the Green Men was formed to keep watch over the Isle of Faces. The pact began 4,000 years of friendship between the men and the children, and in time the first men even put aside their own gods they had brought with them, and they took upon the worship of the secret gods of the wood. The signing of the pact ended the Dawn Age and began the Age of Heroes. The reason I read this particular passage was because I believe that we will see the God's Eye in Season 8 of A Game of Thrones, and I believe Bran will physically be brought to the vast system of caves, which I believe are created by the roots of the weirwood trees on the island. But he is not the only character that is supremely important to this scenario and how we understand the endgame. Howland Reed will be making his long-awaited appearance into the present timeline. And he possesses a unique knowledge, not only the truth about Jon Snow's true parentage, but also the knowledge about the Children of the Forest, and specifically the Order of the Green Men. The Green Men are mentioned by Catelyn, Maester Luwin, and later on in A Storm of Swords when Meera tells Bran the tale of Howland and the Night of the Laughing Tree. The lad knew the magics of the Crannocs, said Meera, but he wanted more. Our people seldom travel far, you know. We're a small folk and our ways seem queer to some, so the big people do not always treat us kindly. But this lad was bolder than most, and one day when he had grown to manhood, he had decided he would leave the Crannocs and visit the Isle of Faces. It was the Green Men he meant to find, so he donned a shirt sewn with bronze scales like mine, took up a leathern shield and a three-pronged spear like mine, and paddled a little skin boat down the Green Fort. Bran closed his eyes and tried to see the man in his little skin boat. In his head, the Crannogman looked like Jojen, only older and stronger, and dressed like Meera. He passed beneath the twins by night so the Freys would not attack him, and then when he reached the Trident, he climbed from the river and put his boat on his head and began to walk. It took him many a day, but he finally reached the God's Eye, threw his boat in the lake, and paddled out to the Isle of Faces. "Did he meet the green men?" said Bran. "Yes," said Meera, "but that's another story, and not for me to tell. My prince asked for knights." This isn't Meera's story to tell, it's Howland's, and if Howland did go to the Isle of Faces and learn the ways of the ancient order of the Green Men, wouldn't it stand to reason that it involves Bran in some way? I believe that Bran will have to seek out the Isle of the Faces much like Howland did to find this information, but for purposes of the show, we know that Bran and the Night King are connected, and we saw the Night King grab Bran in a Weirwood vision. Which brings me to my prediction for Game of Thrones Season 8. While Season 8 only has 6 episodes, it's supremely important that we find more about the history of the pact between the Children of the Forest and the First Men. More about the Children of the Forest and the backstory for the Night King. There are multiple people that will be heavily involved in finding this information, but Bran Stark, Howland Reed, and Jon Snow are the most important. In the first episode of Season 8, we will have a great congregation of characters at Winterfell getting together to welcome Jon and the Queen of Dragons, Daenerys Targaryen. And while they make their plans on how to defeat the Night King, Howland Reed will finally make his appearance, and Jon will learn that he is the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. This is going to be one of the hallmark moments of the series, however, it is just as important that Howland tell Bran about the Isle of the Faces and what he learned when he trained with the Order of the Green Men. There will come a point in the season where we believe that nearly all hope is lost since the army of the dead continues to regenerate its ranks. And I believe this will take place on the Trident near Harrenhal and the God's Eye. But what is so important that Bran could find that can change the course of the battle for Dawn? It's the understanding of balance. This is why the lessons from the Children of the Forest are so important, because they are Martin's door into understanding that humanity lacks the understanding of the natural order between humanity and nature. This holy war has led to countless political wars, and the wheel has kept on spinning, created a divide in humanity itself. But in order to achieve rebirth, first must come death, and as a representation of death, the Night King must be defeated, a battle between ice and fire. The strongest elements of magic within Game of Thrones are ice and fire, and if you mix the two, the most logical answer is to say that we will get water, and water represents life. And it's ironic because in the Bible, Druidism, or Animism, they both represent the same thing, the Spirit of God and truth, something that is within us all if we choose to accept it. This is why Jon Snow is so important. Together with Bran, they will be able to defeat the Night King, but at this point we will have understood and empathized with the situation, that so many people died for all of this to end. And it's of my personal belief that Bran will physically die in this scenario, having to warg into the Night King to let Jon strike the killing blow. It's bittersweet and a hard truth, but there's still sweet within the bitter and truth within the hard times. And I believe Jon is to be the symbol of all the sacrifice through Ned, Rhaegar, his family, and friends. Even Beric said it best, the only enemy is death. But perhaps this is Jon's Lightbringer, being able to bring everyone together despite all of the chaos. The Song of Hard Truth, the Song of Ice and Fire. If you enjoy exploring symbolism, religion, philosophy, then you should consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming content. I want to personally thank all of you who have been incredibly supportive of the channel. Your positive energy, hype, and friendship gets me even more excited to make videos. It makes me inspired. And we've got 11 new patrons this month already, and it's only January 9th. So that's amazing. And if you are considering becoming a patron and supporting the channel, I have bonus content up from the podcast from me and Gemma, the Citadel of Hype podcast. And there will be new updates and new content every day for you on Patreon. That's right, I've completely revamp my Patreon with new winter specials and more. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Hype and love.
Fuck the king.
How much for your little plan?